The Dark Crystal Minute is brought to you by Dream Fasting, the Dark Crystal Experience, a Facebook group on the Dark Crystal by fans for fans. To join the group, search on Facebook for Dream Fasting, the Dark Crystal Experience.
Another world, another time, in the age of wonder.
You are listening to the Dark Crystal Minute.
And begin all the same. Sometimes good, sometimes bad.
And now once more the world must undergo a time of testing.
It is time to return to the castle.
There is much to be learned, and you have no time.
And here's your hosts, Philip Mitchell and JM Prater. Hello and welcome to the Dark Crystal Minute. I'm Philip Mitchell and I'm from Trial by Stone, the Dark Crystal podcast.
And I am JM Prater and I am from Perfect Organism, the Alien Saga podcast.
And today we are up to the third minute of the Dark Crystal. This is your minute-by-minute discussion on the film The Dark Crystal. So overall in this minute, we still get some more narration about the Skeksis as they wait for pretty much the sun to appear, for the sun to beam, the light beam to go down into the crystal and into their faces. And then, of course, you get the Dark Crystal title card. So that's sort of overall what happens in this third minute of the Dark Crystal. So first of all, my initial thoughts on this third minute. I did notice that it starts how it goes into a transition shot. But the transition shot is actually, seems like it's almost like a same setup, but just like the camera was moved closer or, just zoomed in a bit more. So that was just an observation I was sort of making out of that with the third minute. And I was just curious whether they actually intended it to be, one long tracking shot, or whether it was always the case of having that transition in between as a sort of a passing of time. Just wanted to know what your thoughts on that, Jamie.
It's very interesting to me. I'm really, to be honest with you, I am transfixed or spellbound by really the reveal, almost full costume reveal of these creatures. And I don't know. It's interesting. It's a very interesting series of shots.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean the panning. I just love the panning. Just sort of, it really gives us, I guess, the audience to really sink in like this whole world and with the creatures and the sets and the designs and everything. Yeah, it's just again, I think we'll keep saying this in every episode, just how incredibly detailed the film is. And even, we're seeing podlings again in the background. Yes. And I guess, with the narration, so the narrator says, today once more they gather at the crystal as the first sun climbs to its peak. So the first sun, for any listeners, there is three suns. There's the great sun, the rose sun, and the dying sun. So the first sun is that they are waiting for is the great sun. And so the narration goes on saying, for this is the way of the Skeksis, as they ravage the land, so too do they learn to draw a new life from the sun. So I guess this is interesting, whether this is something that they're learning for the first time about drawing new life from the sun, or whether this is something they've been doing for a while, but they're still new at this sort of thing, with drawing new life in the sun, from the sun, because I guess, as we get through the film, it sort of reveals that with ravaging the land, they pretty much got rid of the Gelflings, essentially. So now the Gelflings are gone, they got to find new ways to draw new life, henceforth with the sun. So, it just makes me wonder about, how long they figured out about using the sun to its advantage.
Also, a question I have is what's happening at Great Conjunction right now? Or is it just a ceremony of the sun? I always got that was confused because obviously at the end of the film, there is a Great Conjunction. But at the beginning of the film, I know they talk about the ceremony of the sun, and I'm confused. I guess they say the great sun rises to its peak. It's an interesting dichotomy between what's happening in the beginning and what's happening at the end. And back to your original question in terms of the tracking shot, I don't know. I just rewatched it a little bit, but it's a beautiful shot. It is a beautiful, smooth motion. It's unbelievable. It would have been interesting, if they would have kept that up, but then they cut to they eventually cut to the static shots. But yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, I just love just the panning. It's very nice, smooth, and just the cinematography is just so fantastic. Coming from Oswald Morris, which was his last feature film with
Wow.
The Dark Crystal. That was this sort of retired from doing cinematography after doing the film. And yeah, it's just amazing, as we'll keep on saying. But yeah, it's sort of so too do they draw new life from the sun. So it's only the one sun that sort of appears. So there must be some system, of course. When certain suns appear, whether during the day or every hundreds of years. And in this case, later in the film, we get the Great Conjunction, which happens every 1,000 years.
Yeah.
So again, from continuing with the narration, today once more they replenish themselves, cheat death again through the power of their source, their treasure, their fate, the Dark Crystal. And that's when we get the really nice title card of the Dark Crystal, which I think it's a great sort of fantasy-esque title card.
Very 80s.
It is, yeah. It definitely has the 80s written all over, and love that it's the purple, sort of the purple color is sort of reminiscent, of course, of the Dark Crystal as it stands, with the purple of the crystal, the veins, I guess, that are through that crystal. And then so from there, we see he's just preparing and got his hands out, looking up to the sky, waiting for the sun. And then the sun, beams the light into the Dark Crystal, which separates, into different beams of light to each of the 9 Skeksis. And again, with the narration, it says so they do call this the ceremony of the sun. So, and I guess because the fact that it says, but today the ceremony of the sun gives no comfort. So I guess in that way, it probably means that they've done this at least a good couple of times. Well, I guess they're still learning, the fact that it says that it gives them no comfort. So it's like there's a different feeling with today compared to all the other days.
Yeah.
As we get in the narration, it says, today an emperor lies dying. Today a new emperor must seize the throne. I don't know, it just makes me think like whether this ceremony of the sun was going to be like an indicator of who's going to be the new emperor.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, of course, ends up being like a trial by stone argument. But whether this was going to be like a first test of things, probably not, but I'm just,
Yeah. It's interesting too to continue to see and discuss the whole setup, the interior of this castle, the artistry, how authentically aged it looks, the magic that's used to pull all of this off. I mean, you're going from close-up shots, which are people, underneath these big puppets, and then you go to these wide shots, which are also people underneath these puppets, but they're different puppets. They're the puppets that walk and move.
Yeah.
So you're going from one scale to another scale, and then you have the floor, and then you have, in some scenes, there's people under the floor puppeteering these things. I mean, all of this is happening in this 1 minute, and then you're seeing, the rays coming from the crystal are animated. Like it's the incredible amount of effort just in this 1 minute is mind blowing.
Yeah, and that's going to be the case pretty much for all these Dark Crystal minutes. Just the amount of work and detail they put in toward each minute, and even just love, just looking at that matte painting of the seeing the sun sort of as it gets closer. Yeah, it's just incredible, and just I mean, that's the thing. It's like, I still don't know, like, how they brought the Skeksis to life, you know, like the puppeteering setups for each sort of shot and angle. And yeah, it is still like pretty mind-blowing stuff.
Yeah, it has no parallel. There is no parallel. There is nothing that we can even remotely compare this to. And it'll probably be a theme for me again and again and again as we continue to invest in each of these minutes and talk about what we're seeing. I'm speechless almost.
Yeah.
About how amazing this film is, and really as amazing as it was. Like, I know we talked about this on our last episode, but as amazing as it was on the big screen in Hollywood, I don't know. There's something even more amazing about it in an intimate setting where I'm on my computer and I'm watching this. Just the intimacy too. I mean, this is a grand film, but it's also a very intimate film. This is a story about a journey, but also, and we can relate because we're all on a journey. We all know that experience. We've all kind of journeyed or have journeys in our lives. So it's a very intimate film, or we're called to something higher. We're called to do something maybe that's not comfortable, or maybe that's outside of our comfortability, but we're doing it anyways because we know we're supposed to. I mean, those are the themes of the Dark Crystal. And like we've said before, I can go on and on and on about this.
Yeah. And I mean, we could absolutely will. But I think we'll leave it for this minute of the Dark Crystal Minute, and stay tuned for the next episode of the Dark Crystal Minute. Thank you for listening. If you want to get in contact with us, you can do so at darkcrystalminute@gmail.com. You can like us on Facebook at facebook.com/darkcrystalminute, or follow us on Twitter at darkcrystalmin. This show is a part of the Trial by Stoner Dark Crystal podcast network. If you can give a chance to give us a 5-star review on iTunes, gladly appreciated. I hope you enjoyed the show and come back next time for more Dark Crystal Minute.